Well, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all here. This is the pink elephant in the room. And I would like to just give a little introduction about what's going to happen, but I don't think it's worth it to say too much because you're going to experience it for yourself and you're really going to enjoy it. That much I can say for sure. Shanta is an entrepreneur. She is the owner of Indigo Blooms. She worked in a variety of industries, and then as she says, she decided to leave and live her dream. She is become an expert in this kind of work in particular, in facilitating conversations and in leading change, and you'll see that. I'm not going to say too much more except to say, buckle up. Should be a great session.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and thank you, Christine, for introducing me, and welcome to the Pink Elephant in the Room. I'm so excited to be here. I've had the pleasure of popping in on several of the sessions, and I have to say, Ken, I am amazed, I am overwhelmed, and I am so grateful to be a part of something that I think is just life-changing. I can't put it any other way, life-changing. So I wanted to start with a little icebreaker. This session is going to be a little different because I'm really trying to engage people. The whole idea of this room and this space is to get people to dialogue. And so we're going to start out with the icebreaker. You may have heard of 2 lies and a truth. Today we're going to have 3 truths and 6 lies about me. I figure this is the best way to kind of introduce myself to get an idea of who is Shanta. And so Christine's going to put some attributes up and we're going to see if we can figure it out. We're going to use the chat option to let you kind of vote in a way to see exactly which are the truths and which are the lies.
And Shanta, do you want me to put the agenda after we do this game, just to give people a viewing of where we're going, or you can? Okay, so I'll do that slide first.
Yes.
Are you able to see that? All right. I'm going to just put the chat down for a moment and make this.
So I'm just going to read through them, and I'll let you decide what you think is true or not about me. The whole purpose of this is we tend to size people up long before we meet them in person, long before we actually see them. Often we think we know who the person is just by the way they look or by the way they carry themselves. And so we all have inherent biases, and this is a good way to kind of check them out with this game. So how many in the group believe that my first job was at Domino's Pizza? Use your chat to give your opinion on that. How about part-time nanny? Do I look like I was good with kids? Any Deriff folks here? Could I be a graduate of Deriff High School? Maybe, maybe. How about this one? Homecoming queen? Do I look like a homecoming queen? She's your queen to be. How about sings in front of thousands? Does that sound possible? Okay, here's one of my all-time favorites. How about former hip hop dancer? Do I look like I can, break it down for you? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hair salon? Do I look like I own a hair salon? How many supporters of Walmart? Do I look like I did stock at Walmart? I am a very detail-oriented person. Let me just say that. Loves the fried chicken. I love to eat chicken. I am a chicken fan. So I see responses coming in. A lot of yeses to the chicken. Let's see. Yes to being a singer. Someone's laughing at the fried chicken one. Someone said, I'm scared to answer fried chicken. This is great. This is great. Anaya thinks I own a salon. Okay. Another to the chicken. Let's see. Jim Von Schilling, homecoming, sings, and Walmart. He's got his 3. Someone says a political figure. That's not on the list, but okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. So this is great. So who wants to hear what's really the truth? Okay. So I'm not a hip hop backup dancer, although in my mind somewhere I do think I am a good dancer. That's not my truth. Let's see, what else? I want to go through the things I'm not first. And Christine, if you could just put it back up real quick,
Sure,
because I
sure.
want to make sure I can see them.
Hang on. I got to get back out of it. I'm a little,
Sorry about that.
no, I'm a little slow, but I'll get there. There you go.
So no hip hop dancer. Unfortunately, I do not own a hair salon. That would save me a whole lot of money if that were the case. Let's see. Actually, I do not love to fry chicken. I actually will not fry chicken in my home. I do not like the smell. It seems like impossible to get rid of, so I'm not a fan of that, although I will eat it. Let's see, what else was not true? I have never been a part-time nanny. I wouldn't even suggest or recommend you leave me with your children. I'm a mom, and so that's enough for me. And I did not graduate from Darab High School. I'm actually from New Jersey, so I did not go to high school here in Pennsylvania. So what does that leave? My first job was at Domino's. I do know how to make pizza. That is still a skill that impresses my children. And in fact, I was homecoming queen. I was also class president, you know, overachiever. That would be me. And lastly, I have sang in front of thousands on multiple occasions, and I currently sing every Sunday for multiple services at my church. So I get to do that a lot. So those are some of the facts about Shanta, but I wanted to share them because I wanted people to start thinking about how we view people and how we think we know something about the person without ever even meeting them. And so I'm sure just by the responses in the chat room, I can see that people made some assumptions, and that's okay because we all do it. I do it as well. You know, we all have inherent biases. But the thing that I'm learning through what's been happening lately is that often our biases are so way off that we also start to put those biases on other people. And all of a sudden, we're making assumptions about entire groups of people. So I'm going to stop there for a second, and I'm going to allow Christine to put up our agenda real quick, and then we're going to move forward.
Okay. All right. Is that visible?
Yep.
Okay.
So in addition to going through, we already did the welcome, the icebreaker, and who is Shanta we're working on, we're also going to talk about what is the pink elephant in the room. I did build in a dance break. If time allows, I want to get to that. And we are going to do the put a finger down challenge for those who know what that is. And we're also going to talk about social media, your chief bias officer. And then lastly, I want to talk about personal responsibility for equality. And I also am going to share, Christine and I are going to share a video about the Emmaus Peace protest, which I marched in and spoke at. So moving that quickly, I just wanted to share with you what you're in for today. And like it was said before, put on your seatbelt because we'll be rolling quickly. So as a Black woman in my skin, and the profession I am in right now as a professional business owner, an event planner, and floral designer, often I'm mistaken for a whole lot of different things. And I've kind of gotten used to it, but I can't say that it's comfortable for me. And so I wanted to share with you what it feels like on my end and some of the things I receive. And I wanted to use something I see on the internet all the time where people use signs to kind of express their feelings. So often when people meet me or see me or talk about me at the coffee break room, there may be something that's said like this. And I'm trying to make sure you can see it. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe sometimes I'm referred to as the single Black mother. How about this one? Often referred to as the angry Black woman. Another favorite. The big Black woman. Here's another that used to happen at work. The mispronunciation of my name. I have been Shaniqua quite often. It's Shanta. I also get Shantae or Shanae from Martin, if you remember that series on TV. And another favorite, people who want to call me girlfriend, but we're not really girlfriends. Here's another, not socially acceptable, but used quite often, baby mama. Yeah. And of course, lastly, but not least, you know, the one with the hair. Black hair becomes a very popular topic now and again. And so those are the things that are often said about me. I wish that people would see me the way I see me. When people ask me who I am, I usually say, well, you know, I'm a mother of two. I have a teenager and I have an adult son. I also will say I graduated from Rutgers University. When I graduated from high school, I was in the top 10% of my class. As I mentioned before, I was also homecoming queen, class president my junior year and my senior year. I love to cook. I also volunteer on a regular basis quite often. You can see me working with groups like Parkland Cares, Food Pantry, the Angel Network of the East Penn School District. I've also done mission trips internationally. There's a whole lot about me that I'd like people to know long before the attributes that come up. So this has led me to think about me being the pink elephant in the room, as I have been on many different occasions. And many people on this phone call may have had that experience as well, where they're the pink elephant in the room. So after George Floyd passed, I was incensed and I was moved as a mother of a son and a daughter to really reevaluate how I was choosing to use my voice. For many years, I actually had chosen to kind of what my mom would call try to blend, you know, work within the system that's there and try to excel and achieve, and people will see I'm a good person, it'll be great. I think I have learned differently that because of the skin I'm in, it doesn't matter whether I live in the suburbs, it doesn't matter whether I have an education or don't have an education. I too am George Floyd. And so I started to think about what I could do to address the disparity, to address why people of color are viewed differently. And so my solution or my response was to start an online Facebook group, which is known by the Pink Elephant in the Room. In this group, I didn't want what's happening right now on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, where people kind of throw their meme, post their video, in all caps, put their comment, and then they go back to their corners and there's no dialogue. I wanted to create a safe space where people actually could hash out some issues. And a very important component to that is a component that we see here, where there's face-to-face dialogue, where you can see me, I'm a real person. I'm not what the media portrays or what you think in your head about people of color or a Black woman, that you could actually see the Black woman. So we use the Rooms feature in Facebook, and we actually just talk with people and allow them to work through issues of race, bias, racism, systemic racism, racial disparities, and the like. And so that's kind of my response. I also just didn't want it to be a place where people could just come to spew. It's been very important to me to make sure that we're not just giving lip service, we're not just talking. And so some of the things that we have been encouraging people to do is to get involved in the process of change. And from that, I'm pleased to report during this time from the pandemic and George Floyd on, we've had people who have participated in writing campaigns for the Innocence Project. We have had people who have decided to run for local office. We've had people who have felt more comfortable expressing their disdain at work when they hear the racial jokes. We've had people who have had some courageous conversations with family members. And it's amazing to me when people come back and report the change that they're seeing locally, because in the Pink Elephant in the Room, we really support individual responsibility for change. So I know that's a lot, so I'm going to hold for a minute because I want to check with Christine to see if we have anybody who wants to ask any questions about this part and what I've said so far.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but if you want to post something in the chat, now's the moment.
Okay. Just trying to pay attention. So.
Oh, I've got one there. What have you found to be the most difficult topic to discuss?
There have been some tough ones. I think keeping it not politics driven has been a challenge. One of the rules in our group is that we're not a political forum. I am a strong believer in not blaming other entities, holding ourselves accountable. We're responsible for whoever's in the White House, in your local governments, and so we try to keep it there. So that's probably been one of the harder topics because right now, as you can see, because we all live in this environment right now, people want to blame one side or the other. And my question to people, to folks are, well, okay, we can see what they're doing, but what are you doing?
Another one, at work, have people asked the question, can I touch your hair? And how do you respond to that?
Yes, and yes, for as long as I can remember. I'm not a pet poodle, so I don't need to be petted. I can remember dealing with this issue from childhood. My mother tried really hard to help me to fit in. I grew up in the suburbs. I've always been in the suburbs. I went to a school where for the first 4 years of my elementary life, I was the only Black student in the classroom. I always like to mention my schools were not desegregated until the 70s. When that happened, there were bomb threats for my little elementary school for people who were not wanting their children to go to school with little old me. The solution then was that across town, where there were more children of color, those schools were overcrowded. I was in a school, and I can clearly remember my kindergarten class had 2 large rooms. We had an indoor slide. There was a piano. It was a very warm and loving place. But that was not the story on the other side of town. And so when people say things like across the tracks, that was like a real story for me. So when people talk about my hair, you know, it's uncomfortable because first of all, this is my body, it's my space. And so in this age, we don't want people just violating us. And so my hair is connected to my body. So that's also a violation for me. And usually when people ask me, can I touch your hair? Often I have asked why. And I think that can take people aback, but I need them to be taken aback. Like, why do you need to touch my hair?
Yeah, I I don't say that, but I just feel like sure, because like it's mostly I work in a nursing home, so it's mostly like the like elderly people asking that, and like they all have dementia, so like I try to
Mhm.
cut them some slack. But it's like sometimes my coworkers are like, "Oh my God, like is that your real hair? Or can I touch your hair?" And like at first I'm like, okay, but now I'm like kind of getting annoyed, and it's like, why do you need to touch my hair all the time? You know?
And it's okay to say no, and it's okay to ask why.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the thing I think about, it does depend on where it's coming from. I was on a mission trip in Guatemala, and if you know anything about the mission field, quite often there is an underrepresentation of people of color doing mission work.
Yeah.
And so I was with a team of physicians and dentists, and we were going to run medical and dental clinic. I'm not a medical professional or a dental professional. My job was a professional handholder. I just love people. But I immediately realized that these children probably never saw anyone as big as me, or my hair, or you know, as dark as me. I mean, there were people of color, but I was a darker person of color, and the children wanted me to pick them up, and they did want to touch my hair, and I found that totally acceptable, and I picked up I don't know how many children. So it does depend on where it's coming from.
I have two more questions for you,
All right.
and then you have to decide where you want to dance break or finger down.
We'll
So the
tell
two
them.
questions that Jim Von Schilling, a New Jersey man to his core, wants to know what town you grew up in. Uh,
A little town called Roselle, New Jersey, one public high school. I graduated with about 150 people.
and another question of a different kind of connection. What was it like being the only person of color in your class? How did the classmates treat you? Oh, Judy wants to know, she grew up in South River, New Jersey. So,
Also, hey, um, I can honestly say I had a wonderful childhood. I don't recall feeling different. Um, I got invited to birthday parties. That's very important, you know, to not feel ostracized. I had a best friend. I actually think that I was in a pretty good town because I'm still in touch with people who I went to elementary school with. So that says something about our bond and how I was treated. Um, I don't think I really experienced real racism until much later in my life, when I decided to date outside of my race. So, all
okay,
right.
I think we're good. So you're next.
All right. So I also wanted to do the put a finger down challenge. So anybody who's actually on video, I'd like to see your hands up. I need your 10 fingers. Okay. So I'm going to read through some questions. And if it applies to you, you will put a finger down. All right. So let's get started. Put a finger down if you have a Black neighbor. Put a finger down if your high school class president was Black. Put a finger down if your primary doctor is Black. Put a finger down if you had a Black elementary school teacher. Put a finger down if you've been to a Black church. Put a finger down if you have a Black best friend. Put a finger down if a Black person was at your last social gathering. Put a finger down if you've ever crossed the street to avoid a Black person. Put a finger down if you've ever had a Black supervisor. Put a finger down if your favorite athlete is Black. I end up with 2 fists. I want you to stop and take a look at your hands and see where you're at socially, because it tells you a lot about who's in your circle, who you allow in, and who you're comfortable with. Cool? All right, so let's talk about some of the questions I chose. Neighborhoods. Although segregation is supposedly over, more and more our neighborhoods are segregated. Yes, there are people of color that live in the suburbs, but not as much as we'd like to see, and redlining is still a real deal. the effects of redlining are still very prominent. So check yourself and see who's in your neighborhood and start to ask why. And how do we work towards providing opportunities for our neighborhoods to be equalized a little better? All right. Second one.
Oh, there's a question here. What is redlining?
Okay. So redlining was a practice, a legal practice, where groups of people, for example, Black people, were only allowed to live in certain areas in this country. It affected things like your ability to obtain a mortgage in a particular neighborhood. So for example, right now, I live in Lower Macungie. In a redlining reality, I would be relegated to perhaps, let's say, only Allentown. And if I went to secure a mortgage for a place that I wasn't represented in, I would be denied. So if I get a chance, here's a better suggestion. In the Pink Elephant in the Room, in our group, we share resources. And I actually have a really, really good resource of terms to become familiar with. And redlining is one of those terms where it actually gives the definition and a whole host of other things. Because in order to have those conversations with people you're trying to communicate better with and get better understanding with, you have to actually have the words and the understanding and the definitions to have that conversation, if that makes sense. There was another question?
Just someone saying powerful activity.
Awesome, awesome. I saw this on TikTok just like everybody else, and I kind of custom tailored it to the questions I wanted to ask. But I do think it's a powerful tool to find a fun way for us to really look at our social circles and who we spend our time with, and some of our own biases. Elementary school teacher. I wanted to touch on that because there's underrepresentation of Black and Brown people in the educational school system and the higher educational school system. And it's important that we have representation for better understanding of our youth as well. We bring perspective to the educational platforms. Black church, I always want to point that out because we still don't, for the most part, worship together. And sometimes you got to get out your comfort circle and go check something else out. Maybe it's the Black church, maybe it's a synagogue, maybe it's a mosque, but try something different. And the Black best friend, easy for me to say I have a Black best friend, but maybe broaden your circle, see who else you can befriend. When people say to me, well, I have Black friends, I usually say this to them. For my age group, who was in your wedding when you got married? Were there any people of color? And then they'll kind of be shocked. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. When you say you have Black friends, real friends are the people who share intimate moments in your life, your wedding, the birth of your child, your backyard barbecues. So we have to kind of be clear on who are the real friends that we have. And I don't know if anybody noticed that I also put my finger down for if you've ever crossed the street to avoid a Black person. Yeah, because I think the media, we have been socialized to fear Black, and that also affects Black people when we have fear of one another. So think about that. And if you've ever had a Black supervisor, I throw that out there because as a supervisor, I managed people for many years. It can be a daunting task being misunderstood as a Black person, or being interpreted as, oh, she's so angry, or, she makes me feel uncomfortable. And we need more representation in those areas as well, in all areas of corporations and entities. And then last but not least, is your favorite athlete Black? I threw that in there because there are spaces where people are more comfortable with Black people, one of them being athletics and also music. But what I'm trying to help people see is we need more crossover. So when you get a chance, I say do your own put a finger down challenge with your groups if you can. So is there a question? Oh, until they take a knee.
Yeah.
That's right. Ken brings out a very good point. Unfortunately, many of our athletes were beloved, worn, and buying their, their regalia and paraphernalia until they started to use their voice to speak out. And why is that? Why is that once we actually start advocating for equal treatment, that we're shut down? The last group I was in with Black Lives Matter, I made a comment. Oppressors like to control the narrative. They want to tell you how to feel, how to think, and also to marginalize when you do start to share how you feel. And so we have to work on that as a nation and as globally. All right. So Christine, what's up next on our agenda? And how am I doing with time?
You're doing amazing. Your next is social media, is the Chief Bias Officer. That's your next.
Yes. So in the Pink Elephant in the Room group, I spend a lot of time dialoguing about how we digest information and how we define who we should be listening to. Because we've come to a time where people really believe that the more likes you have gives you credibility. And I am raging against that. I remember receiving a video, someone inboxed me. They didn't post it publicly. They inboxed me a video of Candace Owens. And I never heard of her. And for those who don't know who Candace Owens is a Fox News personality, or has become a Fox News personality, and speaks on behalf of conservative politics. And they sent it to me because they wanted me as a Black person to talk about how I felt about what she was saying. And Candace Owens has a message that says that Black people are the only group of people that advocate for the lower tier. So when we're advocating for the George Floyds and the Tamir Rice, that we're advocating for the lower tier, which I reject that whole idea. But it was interesting because I had never heard of her. And what I shared with this person was, Candace Owens is not for me. She's out there to make other white people feel comfortable, not Black people, because she doesn't speak for me. I had never heard of her. And her popularity and fame is based on internet popularity, which if you research her background, she has no credibility to be a public figure for Black people. And so in the Pink Elephant in the Room, we talk about how do you determine who you're listening to? And so I coined the term Chief Bias Officer for social media, is because they feed you the same diet. Everybody is familiar with algorithms and how they work. And something that was used for mathematics is now deciding by how you surf the web, what you like to shop for. If I say I like carrots, next thing you know, I'm getting organic carrots. I'm getting imported carrots, carrot cake, carrot recipes. What's the best way to grow a carrot? It is shoved down my throat. And we have to be cognizant of how algorithms are also used to reinforce our opinions on politics, on religion, on who we like or don't dislike, and who we are saying we're following. And so it used to be a time if we were looking for a leader, we looked to, our pastors, our rabbis, our politicians, professors, scientists. And now we see that people are poo-pooing the scientists. They're not believing facts. And that's because we have given up our ability to research what is factual and what is truth. And we've given up on the idea. We like the quick the quick response. And that's what the internet provides to us. The agree with me. And so whatever it is that I decide I like, they're going to feed it to me and they're going to shove it down my throat. So if I say I'm down with Candace Owens, I will be filled and flooded with everybody like Candace Owens. And so I'm going to encourage you to unplug from that. I do not repost videos of talking heads. I try to, as I call it, keep my pathways up here clear, so I can really think about the decisions I'm making and who I'm supporting and the whys, if that makes sense. Any questions on that?
There were a couple of other questions in the chat. They don't quite go to where I think you're going, but still, I'm going to mention them.
Okay.
Okay, so only had one Black therapist, aren't many Black doctors. Why? How do you feel about colorism in the Black community, and have you dealt with anything regarding colorism personally?
Matching center.
Sorry?
Did somebody say something?
Then one more. Why more likely for Blacks to attend a church led by a white pastor than the opposite?
Okay, so let me first go back to the first question and repeat it again, because just that quick, it just like.
Sure. Only had one Black therapist, aren't many Black doctors. Why?
Okay, so in reality, there are more Black doctors than there used to be. However, we also have to factor in whether you're comfortable with a Black doctor. Do you trust a Black doctor? And I say that because just as if you've ever had this experience, if you were in the ER and someone comes in to tell you what's going on with you and they look like they're 18, often people kind of question it, like, do they know enough to diagnose me? So imagine people's feelings and preconceived notions if that person is a person of color. And so it's a two-pronged problem. Opportunity, are there opportunities for Black and brown people to pursue a medical degree? You know, it's expensive to become a doctor. That debt is high. And if you're from a household that doesn't support paying for that, if you are not brilliant enough to get a scholarship to support that, you may not end up in that field of study. But again, I'm encouraging people to think outside of that, because diversity is a great thing. I actually purposely look for not only the background of the doctor, but as a Black female, for my OBGYN, I absolutely prefer a Black female because I need her to understand my Black anatomy and my issues as a Black woman. If you've done any reading on healthcare disparities, you know that often we are underdiagnosed, we die more often from cancer. So there are a lot of issues that are treated differently because of race. And so I'm choosing my wonderful OBGYN, who I did do a background check on, but I'm hoping that she has a better connection to me because she's in the skin I'm in. But I think there's also opportunity to give someone else who has a great educational background, who may have gone to a great school, the opportunity to be your physician. They may know something more than the person who has been out in the field for 20, 30, 40 years, but they don't get that opportunity. So the second question about colorism. Have I experienced it? Not necessarily. I don't know that I could speak to that as well, but I want to get back to it. And Ken, if this is all right, I'm hoping to jump in one of your lounges after this. And I'm hoping that people will meet me there so we can have more dialogue, because dialogue is good. And I want to answer as many questions as I can. what was the last one?
It was about why would it be more likely for a Black person to attend a church led by a white pastor than the opposite?
Well, trust. Again, trust. And I also think it has a lot to do with the structure of the church. If we are not represented in all areas of that church, the chances of a Black person like me attending a church that would be comfortable with ordaining me is limited. So I go to a church where my campus pastor is white. We do have other pastors who are people of color. My choice to attend a more diverse church was based on me trying to live out what I'd like to see in the world, as opposed to being comfortable in an all Black church. Sure, I could go to an all Black church and be received and comfortable and familiar with what's there. But I think the bigger challenge to me is to be in a space that maybe wasn't specifically created, custom tailored to me, but by me being there, I get to have a say and try to shape and change that. As far as comfort levels, if we can't be in the same pew, we'll never get comfortable with the idea of a Black pastor shepherding people who are not Black. Got to put in the time. As 2 participants are raising hands.
Okay, yeah, Denasia? Sorry, if I've mispronounced your name. Are we taking some questions? Is that what you'd like to do?
Sure.
Okay, so.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to unmute it. Sorry. I was gonna ask, like, I may have missed it, but did you think that, like, going to a church that's not like all Black people, like a little bit diverse, do you think that helped, like, I guess, like, your understanding, get a different perspective on religion and stuff, being in a different church that's not all Black people?
For me, part of the decision is my son is biracial. And so I really thought it would be a disservice to his background for me to, say we're only going to a Black church. And I actually do like visiting all kinds of different faiths because, again, I can't understand the group if I'm not there. And so my decision was to not so much understand the church per se, but be a presence and help other people and myself recognize that there's value. There's value in what I bring to the table. I feel the same way about it that I felt about the workplace when I was working in the corporate world, where often I was the only Black person in management. I didn't run from the job because I wasn't surrounded by all Black people. So sometimes, if you want things to change, you actually have to be the change agent by stepping into those areas that people of color are underrepresented, including church.
Mm-hmm.
There
Thank
are
you.
a couple more here. I don't know if you want to do hands or questions in the chat. Feels like we're very much doing the next item, so we're still on time. That helps
so
you.
Let's hold. I wanted to make sure we leave time for the video and questions and answers. So I just want to touch on 2 things before we move to that section. How much time do we actually have left, Christine?
We are due to finish at 1:45, so we still have a little time. And we're kind of blending some of the Q&A that's happening right now, personal responsibility. People are asking questions about how do I take responsibility, I think.
Okay.
So I feel like
that's a
we're
good
kind of still
segue.
doing what you want to do. So you tell me when you're ready to share the peace protest video.
Okay. So Christine was alluding to our next segment is how do I take personal responsibility in advocating for equality for all? And I definitely put this on the discussion table because, as I mentioned before, we can wait for the politicians, the president, the pastors, the CEOs to rescue us, or we can start to do the work ourselves. And I am an advocate in doing the work ourselves. And that way I'm encouraged to hold others accountable. But it's hard for me to hold anybody accountable if I'm not even participating in the process. And so in the Pink Elephant in the Room, we want people to move from silence to solidarity. We want people to find and get in where they fit in. Everybody maybe is not meant to be a politician, but you can use your voice to talk to your neighbor. You can use your voice to talk to your family member. You can use your voice at the school board. There are many areas that are overlooked that you actually can impact. I'll give you an example. I'm an ordinary person. You know, I'm not a superstar. You know, I'm not famous. I'm an ordinary citizen in the real realm of things. But since I decided to use my voice in this way, I've had the pleasure of, writing a letter to Kevin Bronco, who's running for office, and actually him asking to talk to me on the phone. We spent 2 hours talking because I'm pushing the envelope and saying, hey, I don't see myself represented in your ads. What are you doing and how do you feel about Black Lives Matter? What do you feel about the plight of Black people? And asking that question. I'm an ordinary citizen. If I can do it, other people can do it. Last Thursday, I actually was on a Zoom call with Susan Wild. Same thing, I'm asking the question, how are you representing me? I don't see myself reflected in your ads. I think that's huge. Media is huge. And if we do not find a presence in it, then it is custom tailored for us. And so I'd rather be the person that says, I need you to represent me in a better light. And I can do that as an ordinary citizen. You can do that as an ordinary citizen. Writing letters, very powerful. It's a skill that I gained in the business world, but I'm using it in a social activism way to catch the attention and putting it in writing, because when you put it in writing, that means there's a record, which means it can be pulled out at any time and used accordingly. So for those folks who have that skill, especially since we're in an educational forum, I am sure there are some wonderful writers on this call. Use that skill for good and for change. And before we have the video, I wanted to talk about the power of silence. I'm not worried about the people who want to, cram Trump down my throat. I'm not worried about the people who publicly and loudly disagree with me. I'm more concerned about the people who say nothing. The people who don't know that they have a voice. And there are more of them than there are the loud voice in the room. And so often that is where I'm trying to drive the conversation and talk and speak to the people who feel like they have nothing to add to the conversation and help them find their voice and get off the fence, because a lot of that is, if I didn't see it, if I cover my eyes, it'll go away. And I think we can push on those folks too. None of us can really afford the silence, because silence equals, if you're silent, then you're giving someone permission to speak for you. So please don't be silent, use your voice. And so with that, we're gonna show a video. I also wanted to show you how the ordinary citizen has kind of used a gift that she uses. I have used it in a corporate setting, I've used it in a church setting, but I never thought about using it in this way. And so here is a video of the Emmaus Peace March that happened in June. There we go.
Establish justice. We don't get it. Shut it down. We don't get it. Shut it down. We don't get it. Shut it down.
We are not powerless. We are not powerless. small. I retired early to run a small business and live the American dream until George Floyd. But it doesn't really matter what I've done up to this point because it's never the first thing that people notice about me. I wish they saw me first as a college-educated woman. I wish they saw me first as a business owner. I wish they saw me first as a neighbor. I wish they saw me first as a citizen.
Buffering.
As a citizen.
Okay. I don't know if you'll get to hear all of it.
I'm going to stop sharing it for a moment. Do you want me to try again? It was just
Yeah.
spinning on my screen.
Talk, and if it comes back up, just let me know and we'll flip back to it.
All right, I'll see if I can get it going again.
Okay. So that's kind of a glimpse into what I'm doing to use my voice. Often it comes up, people will ask, what is the power of protest? And what I'll usually say is, well, what is the power of doing nothing? Both have an outcome, both have a consequence. And the consequence of doing nothing is getting more of the same. And the consequence of doing something is the hope and the possibility of change. And so when I'm choosing to protest, I'm saying I'm willing to put my voice and my person on the line for something I believe in. And that is an American value, it's an American right. And I wish to exercise it because it was given to me. People have suffered and died for that right. And so really it's a slap into the face to every ancestor I have if I'm not willing to put it on the line. And it can't just be protest, it has to be protest backed up with action and advocacy and change. And so that's what I'm doing. Christine?
I think I have it. I'm
Okay.
not going to swear, but I think I've got it. I'll try again.
They saw me first as a business owner. I wish they saw me first as a neighbor. I wish they saw me first as a citizen of the United States. We are all responsible for what happens in our neighborhoods. We are responsible for what happens in the state of Pennsylvania. We are responsible for whoever is in the White House. We influence our neighbors. We influence our co-workers. We influence our friends. So George Floyd is not only my responsibility, but it's our responsibility. I was silent when I heard the Obama jokes. I was silent when I watched others not get the promotion I knew they were entitled to. I was silent when I heard the jokes about Black people. I'm no longer silent. I will use my voice until the role and the power and the systematic structure of racism is torn down brick by brick by brick, brick by brick by brick. I started a group elephant in the room. For too long, people of color have been the pink elephant in the room. We don't want to talk about them. We don't want to know that they're there. We don't want to hear their problems. We don't want to identify with their struggle. The time for that is over. You are here because that time is over. All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Do you agree with me? So let's get to work! Black lives matter! 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 Black lives matter!
Thanks, Christine. So, in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing. We wanted to save the last part of our session. Thanks, Nikki. And thanks, Darren Colbert. I saw your comment there. For questions and answers, I'm excited to field the questions. And like I said, afterwards, I want to jump into a lounge if people have other questions. Thanks, Ken. I'm grateful to you.
I think Saul has his hand up for a little while, but while I'm on the mic, I just want to say, wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, let me call on Saul then. And if you have your hand up, Saul, I apologize for not catching that.
Well, I put my hand up because I wanted to wait to the right moment, not to interrupt her structure, because I enjoyed it so much. And I also wanted to ask my question on camera to encourage more of my students from the Black Experience course to turn on their cameras and their mics to involve themselves in the conversation. So you could chat and write it there, but I know you want to have a dialogue, and I know they have a lot of questions, and I think you spoke to a lot of issues that we're concerned about. The one thing that struck me, which might be a good starting off point, is being a Black student in a predominantly white college. And one of the things that I was really looking forward to this year, Beverly Tatum's book, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together at the Cafeteria? She was supposed to be in the area that was canceled because of the COVID pandemic. But she spoke to that issue. If you're a Black student, predominantly white college, and you're the only Black kid in most of your classes, except like in our Black Experience class where it's kind of a safe space and most of the students are Black, we talk about these issues. But the only other time that they get to see each other are in places like the cafeteria. So you get into the cafeteria and then you go to the table where the other Black students are. That's your time to share and express, concerns and establish friendships. But then to the majority population, it looks like all the Black kids are segregating themselves. They're all sitting at the same table and not blending in and mixing in. And so, what are your experiences of that, and what can you say to students who are living that reality now?
Okay, so wow, you struck a chord with me. I graduated from Rutgers University, and like I mentioned, I really can't say as a younger person that I had any real experiences that I could put my finger on of feeling different. But then I went to Rutgers, which is a huge school with many campuses. And I remember walking into the dining hall and realizing in the sea of thousands of students, there was a table in the center of the room. And that's where the Black people were. And my roommate at the time, who was African-American, was, let's head over there. And I was like, why? You know, why? Why do we have to sit over there? You know, like, do we have to sit over there? But over time, I actually did start to sit at that table. I want to say this. I think it is comfort, it's familiarity, and it also has a lot to do with where those students are coming from. I was coming from a place that was more diverse. When I was in high school, I probably had the largest person of color graduating class. When I graduated, I believe the numbers were 60% white, 40% people of color. So that's not the way it started out, because like I said, when I was in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third, I was the only Black student there. So my experiences in dealing with other people, other cultures, helped me to feel more comfortable. Now, if I had friends who had, you know, grown up in Newark, New Jersey, and were used to seeing Black people all the time in school settings, in their social settings. And for them, it was a different experience. I can tell you, when I moved to Pennsylvania, it's been a different experience than my experience in New Jersey. And when I have invited friends from New Jersey, or even scarier, friends from New York, they see Pennsylvania differently than I see it. I had a friend tell me he felt like, he was a Black male, he felt like people were staring at him. That could be true. I don't feel that because I think I have a different comfort level. So it does have a lot to do with where the person is coming from. Did they grow up in a community that was not diverse? Plays a lot into how comfortable they feel with discovering things about other students. Then when you factor in the dynamic of maybe it's not friendly to Black people, you know, we all hear the stories of things happening on campuses across the country that are anti-Black. That's a real problem. And so just like in the Black church, where people go to it for comfort, for solidarity, for seeing people that look like your mom and your dad and your cousin, I think kids experience the same thing at college. But like I was saying about my choice to go to a church where I am the minority, I also would encourage students, because, you know, I graduated in 1990, and to hear that we're still struggling in this area is disheartening. I encourage you to step away from that table. I encourage you to take up other spaces and to talk to other people and to claim it as your own, because if you are there at the school, there's a reason that you're there, you're qualified to be there, and not one table is yours, but the whole university is yours, the whole college system is yours, just like this country is mine. I take up residency here, and I won't let anybody make me feel like I'm less than.
I'm going to pick up a question that got put in the chat, I think twice. Brianna wrote, what is your take on the LGBTQ plus community and helping Black Lives Matters movement? And what similarities do you see with that and on Black LGBTQ plus people?
Okay, so this is how I feel. They're obviously connected because they're people, and they're, you know, underrepresented, they're disenfranchised and oppressed. And so I think if we can see more commonalities as opposed to differences, we'll get a lot further. And one thing I can say about being a Black person, we tend to be the catch-all, very accepting. You know, we want, if you come, we're going to accept you. And, you know, and so I think that in all areas, we have a lot of growing to do in the area of not seeing people as so different and capitalizing more on our commonalities. So we're in the fight together. We're not in the fight separately. And when I overcome, you overcome. And so if someone in the LGBTQ community overcomes, that's a win. And I'll take that win. And so we just have to learn how to play better together in the sandbox. And people have asked me, you know, does my faith factor in? And I will tell you, this is how my faith factors in on this subject. The Bible tells me to love my neighbor as myself. And so my first objective is to love everyone. And anything outside of that, I think I'm outside of my faith. And so I can't love somebody if they're not welcomed in my circle. I can't embrace them. I can't learn from them. I can't work with them for change and progress if they're not welcomed in my circle. So I hope that speaks to that. I embrace everyone because that's what we all should be doing. I can't ask white people to embrace me if I'm not embracing people that look like me, regardless of their orientation.
I'll just give you a 3-minute warning, and beyond that, I feel like my duties are done. I've been enjoying it so much. So, Ken, go ahead. You're on it.
Hi, Shanta. So we just have one last question that we're asking all of our panelists. So first of all, thank you so much for coming today. And the question is, I'll try to get it right. It's something to the effect of, what would you like to see our college, either on the level of administration, faculty, or students do to further the cause that you presented here today?
Okay, two things. More representation in all areas and structures in your college, in all tiers, more representation. Two, I'm hoping that there's some thought put behind some specialty programs to address some of our social issues. Whether it's a scholarship or a specialized program that specifically addresses homelessness or specifically addresses racism. Because you know what? Educational institutions have the opportunity to create the future of what they want to see. And so I think when we don't do that, we're doing a disservice to our students. We know the problems that we have in the world, and the best place to start addressing them is on an educational level. And so I'm hoping that by what I see happening in this conference can translate over into something like that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Christine, thank you so much. And everyone who joined, thank you. I count it an honor and a privilege of having this platform to speak to you as a very humble person who's trying to do her best to make a big difference.
Let me just, yeah, we can unmute ourselves to applaud our speaker and our session. Thank you so much, Shanta. Thank you so much, Christine, for
Thank you so much.
moderating. I just want to share with everybody that we've got a lot more amazing things going on, including coming up right after this. You really won't want to miss it. We have 2 speakers. Darian Colbert is local, and this guy Michael Ralph is coming from NYU, and Michael Ralph is like absolutely incredible. I'm so excited that we got him to come. He does really amazing work. I won't speak for him, but that's going to be an amazing panel. And then we have the NAACP coming at 3:30. And then we have a session on youth activism and film. And then we end the day with the movie screening, followed by a talk back with the creators In Love, in Memory, a beautiful, poetic, very interesting documentary made about violence in Allentown. So thank you, everybody, and stick around. Shanta is going to be in the lounge. So if you go to nccpeaceconference.com, and click on the lounge at the top, and then click on Wednesday, you'll be able to find Shanta there to continue this amazing conversation. And
Oh wait, Judy wanted to know, where did you get your amazing virtual background? She wanted it for her class. I promised I'd ask.
It's actually part of my Dell computer.
Okay.
It's one of the options, but I thought it was fun.
it's a Zoom filter. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. See
Okay.
Thank you. See you in the lounge.
you in the lounge.
They're just strict.
Yeah, but if you have a doctor, they'll think you sitting.
Hey, everybody. Okay, so I have switched us. Oh,
Okay, I think I have to leave, Ken. I've got a 2:00 admin meeting. It will be a lot less fun than going to the lounge.
thank you so much, Christine. It was really amazing.
Yeah, my role was standing back. It was great.
Christine, remember that part in 2020 at the Peace Conference when Shanta sang John Lennon songs for us?
I do not remember that part, but
That was 10 minutes ago.
give it, yeah, okay, all right.
All right, I'll see you.
When you need a